ready for us? Looks like Curtis is ready, so with that, we'll call our meeting to order tonight. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda for this evening? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Support. Motion and support, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I have my phone. I just like to look at it here.
Okay. So any comments or questions? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We have an agenda. Thank you. Excuse me, roll call. Are we completed?
We are.
We are. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 24, 2026 regular meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. Hearings. We are to hold a public hearing at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the agenda will allow for the purpose of reviewing Special Assessment Districts number 2026-1, which is for construction of sanitary sewer leads on State Street in conjunction with the SRF Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project.
Move to open the public hearing.
Support. We have a motion support. Comments or questions? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried. We're in a hearing. Looks like David is volunteering to step up here. Please enlighten us.
Dave Ringel, Public Services Director. If all the commissioners remember, we've talked about this a few times, so I'll try to speed this along. This is for the installation of sanitary sewer laterals that may not already exist for existing businesses along North State Street, and also replacing sanitary sewers that are there that could be suspect, meaning that they're anything other than plastic. And the reason for this is, as part of this project, it started out as a water main extension with a street resurfacing, and because of the potential of sanitary sewer issues here in the near future, we've explored the idea. The commission is elected to move forward with the exploration of replacing sanitary laterals and adding new ones where they may be necessary currently. There's also the extension of a sanitary sewer main from about mid-block to approximately 200 feet south of Superior. That new main is not part of the special assessment. The special assessment is just for sanitary sewer laterals. As part of this, we are looking at the price of an 8x6 Y. That's where it connects to the sanitary sewer main, 6-inch sanitary sewer lateral pipe, sanitary cleanout, and this one's a little bit unique because downtown we're going to put cleanouts on there as we do with all, but where the cleanouts are going to be are just on the property owner side of the curb, and there'll be a cleanout casting, and that will be in the concrete once it's placed so it can be found in the future. These are all the addresses that were identified to be a part of the Special Assessment District. Some already have a sanitary sewer lateral. Many of these do not have one, so this will include the installation of a new sanitary service lateral for those particular parcel IDs. Some also have multiple laterals per parcel ID number, just because you have one building and 2 to 3 different businesses within that parcel ID. Are there any questions?
Who has the first question? One thing comes to mind, you talked about the cleanouts being on the sidewalk and this box. That's new, right? I mean, we haven't done that in the past?
We've done that before where there are cleanouts that line up in, suspected to be lined up or that do line up in drive approaches. So that is part of it as well. Okay. The city just pays for that as a part of the sanitary because they're so rare. You might have 2 on a particular street project. This one, I believe, however many there are there is what we're projecting.
Okay. And you said you're adding like 1 per address, even if it's all part of one building?
No, if there's one building with 3 businesses in it, there could be 3 sanitary sewer laterals that we put in here. So if you see an address or a parcel ID with multiple laterals, that's why.
And what's the thinking behind that? Why not just one?
Because
to service a building.
Yep, some of those, if they are, I'll make sure I'm clear in stating this. they will have, if it has its own parcel ID number and it has a storefront, the reason is if the way they are divided, or if they sell the building separately and parcel it off, they have access to a sanitary sewer in the future if necessary, because the way some of those buildings are divided, or could potentially be divided to be sold off based on
And
the current.
that's where my concern lies. I know in the past, we've had a couple buildings, one in particular I can think of, that did get sold in two sections. It's really, always has been, was built, and it is one building, but it was sold in two separate sections. We allowed it to be divided, and it turned out to be a real mess, because it wasn't physically divided. The roof, they shared a roof, they shared a lot of things that just couldn't be divided, and one landowner, or one owner, was willing to fix the roof or whatever, do the repairs, the other one wasn't. I would hope we wouldn't allow that to happen anymore, that kind of a property split. We could prevent that. Is that correct?
I can't, but that's something to explore in the future for parcel splits, but I don't believe it's a good idea in the future to allow it for these reasons for water services and sanitary, correct?
Right, and I'm just wondering if we're putting in extra leads to allow it to, or to accommodate that, we're kind of endorsing the ability to do that, and that kind of concerns me.
The reason I'm looking at on this one is to remedy an existing situation, but I agree with you in the future, that's something I would not look at allowing.
I guess I don't know, I haven't thought about it deeply enough, I don't know. So there's an existing building in this list someplace that has two separate owners that really shouldn't, is that what I'm hearing?
No, like right there in the middle, if you look at 317 and 319, you see how they're the same parcel ID number?
Yeah.
That means they're the same parcel ID, same building, but two different businesses in it. So there'll be two laterals that we put into it for that reason.
But that has one building owner, why does that owner want to pay for two? And should they, should we insist on it? Because I would not want that building ever to be split without dramatically expensive and extensive repairs or splitting of the firewall in between all the way through the roof.
So it's one person owns it, there's one tax ID number, there's two people in it?
Two different renters.
There's just, renters
Okay.
and businesses, anything of that nature. These could always be removed in the future. I'm just trying to accommodate a particular problem that could potentially arise in the future based on the existing conditions that are there. But this is the proposal.
And my concern is that we're going to have trouble telling people, no, you can't split that ownership if we've provided this means to do that. I do not think we should be encouraging that. In fact, I think we should be fighting it because of the mess it was. If they want to put get a condominium agreement, a joint partnership, there's all kinds of legal ways that they can co-own a building without physically splitting the property and, putting the city basically in the middle of a property dispute. My thinking was that if it's one property description, I wouldn't do it. If we do go forward with this today, is that then set in stone, we're going to do it?
No, this is, from my understanding, we're putting everything on there just like we do each time, because we can remove things later, but if we decided we needed two of them, we couldn't add one, right?
Correct, but the way, I understand where the mayor's going with it, I'm certainly not opposed, as long as that's followed in the future, but I don't control parcel splits. So if there ever is a split, I don't want there to be an issue in 5 years. Why didn't we explore that at the same time? Why are we cutting into the new street? On an existing, let's say we're doing a neighborhood, if we're looking at a residential neighborhood, if I have, let's say, I'll pick out an address, 322 North State, and there's one address, and I'm proposing one lateral. If we excavate that property when we're doing construction, we find two live laterals, we're going to connect both laterals and charge them for the two sections of lineal footage for the laterals, because somebody could have had a restroom that they put in their garage, they could have another lateral. There has been one circumstance where there's been a house that's had two laterals, don't ask me why. But if there is evidence, if there's water and material, we just connect it because we don't want to have to excavate the road.
And we've had to do that before.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. What have I proposed it right off the bat? No, but if there's vacant lots that somebody owns, I will always propose the lateral on the vacant lot.
Yeah, I can see a vacant lot or something like that, but I really, if it's one building today, I'd hate to.
But
put
we don't
them
know what
in.
they're gonna do in 15 years. It'll be,
No, but if we don't put 2 laterals in today, that's a good reason, another piece of ammunition to not allow a split in the future of a single building.
I would agree. And historically, if I bring up like Northtown, that's split into a lot of different pieces and there's shared laterals there.
But there's
that-
firewalls in between.
Correct, but there's shared
Upstairs as
laterals,
well.
no shared
As
water
we go forward,
services.
that's being done, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there are shared utilities in those. And
And
that's a problem that continues in the future, but if that is the policy, then I'm okay going forward with it. Just trying to accommodate a potential problem that could be there.
And the alternative is we could, I don't know how they got away with it in the past, but we could make sure that our building codes do not allow for that split without a real true firewall separating the properties. That would be the alternative to this.
And then what you mentioned also, an agreement that gets registered for maintenance of the roof system.
Well, if they did a true separation
Yeah.
with a true firewall that went through the roof and everything,
Well, if it went, yeah.
that would be,
You built a new pair.
then it wouldn't matter, yeah.
Yeah.
Then one person could do their half of the.
Yeah, they could do,
But you'd have to
then it
build
would
it.
essentially become 2 separate buildings.
You have to build it.
They'd have their own structure. If one fell down, the other one would still stand, right?
Yeah.
People don't like doing that.
Or they'd have to have legal description that says exactly where that roof is and somebody only replaces their portion of it. I mean, that's.
Yeah, the trouble is the water, when it leaks on my side, still drips on Eric's inventory.
I've been down through that path.
Yeah, and I wanna-
Property downtown doesn't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would like to avoid in the future, and I don't want to encourage that kind of separation.
Could one lateral of this size handle both buildings if both of them were restaurants or something like that?
With a 6-inch, I believe.
It
so.
could do that, okay.
That's a typical size for a large unit. You can get away with 4, but 6 is what we put in for potential
Okay.
expansions or amount of material.
6 has got a lot of capacity.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. all right.
6 is our standard size that we put.
And that would handle a good-sized building that had 2 high-usage places in it? Yeah.
Well, this does give you an option, like say the property owner of that individual business has its own sewer line, water line, because that's some of the things that Dave and his crew have dealt with in the water department as we've expanded living quarters downtown. The landlord, the old days, they just run one water line in and everyone uses the water and then they try to break it down and what you might owe. They don't like doing that anymore. They want everyone to pay their own water bill, but so there's a separate meter for every residence, there's separate, a separate water bill, and also for
And
shut-offs.
that's easier to
Yeah,
split,
yeah.
too.
Yeah, it is
Water is
shut-offs.
much easier than
Yep.
sewer.
And it's a shut-off thing too, because like if someone's not paying their bill, we can't shut off water to the whole building because so-and-so didn't pay their bill. So it's an issue on that side, but this does offer that. I agree with you completely on if you're looking at splitting buildings, one, it has to be done so it's fire safe. You might need suppression. And then the roof, we went through it with that building there on West Superior Street. Even if you split it down the middle and you fix your own side of the roof,
Yeah.
it's still.
We did that.
Yes.
That actually happened.
Exactly.
Somebody fixed the roof and it's still, the water goes where it wants to go.
Yeah. And unless you have some kind of agreement that if you fix the roof, the building gets fixed, especially the flat roofs, it just doesn't work.
And what that would entail would be separate sewers. I mean, you'd have to have separate laterals, separate plumbing, everything, which would be street connections.
But you're talking major, major construction at that point.
Well, that's what we're getting at here, though. You're gonna have a shared sanitary lateral if you put in a firewall and you have it legally separated. If you have combined sewer, though, that runs underneath in the basements, if somebody has a backup in their sewer and the one says you're not coming over here, you can't replace it. That's the problem that they're trying to address with this one, the current situations. But you have to separate, if you're gonna separate the water, you do need to separate the sanitary sewer. I can name one building right now that has, and it's not even on this district, by the way, that has a sanitary lateral that runs from one and it goes across 3 buildings. The one can't use the bathroom right now because the other won't let them use it. It's not a part of the street. So that's what I'm trying to reduce is what do I do? I don't know what they do. I mean, because they share a sewer. It used to be one building.
Yeah, I mean, I've had buildings like that we dug it up and found out there was 2 buildings connected and the neighbor didn't want to pay, so what do you do at that point?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one thing when you're taking down a tree, but this is a little bit extreme.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, it's a usage of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically shut yourself down.
right.
Or you shut your neighbors down.
Or you shut your neighbors down.
And if you've got somebody next door you don't like, sorry about your bad luck, and you don't have a sewer to say a restroom anymore.
And I guess I'm okay with this and going forward with it, you know.
It's something to look at.
No, I mean, from a
But I
standpoint,
think we need to then also, if we're gonna do this and put these extra laterals in, we also need to make sure our building codes are such that we're not gonna allow these partial separations with a building,
Puzzles.
piece of property that isn't really too separate.
it has to be a separate
Standalone structure, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So
completely.
that's my concern there, and
Agreed.
so,
These buildings are 100 years old and nobody thought of that.
no, of course not. But we're trying to prevent problems for next time.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Not add to the list.
Well, like,
So where-
Northtown Plaza is not 100 years old, but we have the issues there
Oh, yeah.
that we work
Yeah.
with each new business that goes in there. We have to deal with the new firewalls, we have to deal with, it gets really difficult with the water and sewer, because that gets expensive, and then where
Because
you run it.
That's
and-
cost prohibitive,
Yeah.
then I can't put it when you're
Run it.
pushing a business away, so.
So where do we address that issue?
We address it when we make these changes.
Yeah.
That's the only time you can.
Yeah.
But there isn't something we need to change or update or,
Well, as a policy,
Yeah.
when planning commission or, looks at splits,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, unless you can show that it's a
Everything's
buildable
separate,
or
yeah.
a site that, in this case, stands on its own.
okay.
Because we take splits, we have to look at the zoning and say, is it a buildable site? If someone's gonna split some off,
Okay.
we can't just split off 10
Downtown,
feet.
almost anything is split or
Yeah.
buildable because there's
No
no
lot lines.
restrictions,
No
yeah.
restrictions. But if you look at it as, can it stand alone as a separate building,
Yes.
function as its own building envelope? That completely makes a lot of sense.
Which would be, I would recommend a policy as a part of the parcel splits, does it have its own utilities? If it's allowed to be split, it'd have to have its own utilities.
So who's gonna, are you gonna check that out and come back to us with that?
That would be on our side from the
Right, that would
building
be-
and zoning side of things, yes.
I'd like to confirm that we have it in place someplace in our policies and procedures.
We can make that from a downtown standpoint, because right now it's pretty, that's simple, but it's easier to see when you go into a residential
Well, it sounds
area.
like you're already following that
Yeah,
model
make it
in Northtown, so let's just make sure,
yes. Because it took some time, even with our newest addition up in the Kmart building, to figure that water and such out,
Yeah.
because they needed their own water, but how do you get it to them? But we got it worked
added
out.
on to a couple times.
Yeah, and now we're splitting, and
Because
same
that's what we
thing.
worked out there, were easements to where whoever's there, continuing easements, if they have access to connect to it, they'll always have access to replace their water sewer line. They had to prove they had separate sewer laterals on that one. Their plumber proved it and showed with the layout of the drawing of the building, the existing building. So that's something that would be definitely worthwhile to explore, the existing buildings downtown.
So that's what we've been doing there, because it's come back to, not a bias or anything, it's just, you get to the point where some of this equipment is aging out, needs to be replaced, and here we
It
are.
happens faster than we like to admit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any more questions? I guess just me, but sorry.
No, that's
Okay.
good discussion.
With that, it is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the commission on this subject? Anybody have any comments? I see no members of the public coming forward. So with that, we entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. The hearing is closed. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Next, we are to consider a resolution to authorize the State Street Sanitary Sewer Leads construction project and approve the special assessment roll as presented.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any more comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Request for purchase. We are to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase in the amount of $13,599.99 to Midwest Power Equipment for a steel RZ9601 zero-turn mower for the Public Works Department, which in conjunction with the department's equipment management program will replace an existing older mower. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion support. Other comments or questions?
This is a budgeted item to replace, and the older mower will go, and we'll try to sell it for what we can.
Under budget, I hope?
Yes, this is within our budget.
Good news.
Yes, it is. It's in with budget.
All right, good deal. Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. Number two, we're to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase in the amount of $22,500 for iWork Systems, I guess, capital WOR, capital Q Systems, for implementation costs for 1 year and annual subscription services for the Public Works and Permits Management Software, which will replace our current program, which is called CityTech, which I know little about either one, so.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion support.
In your newsletter, I did try to give you a little bit of background on, CityTech has been our, kind of our equipment maintenance, asset management program. It's kind of antiquated. It was good for the time, and they really hadn't kept up with making it more user-friendly and more usable for what we need. So the staff has been working on alternatives for that for the last about 2 years. We've been looking at different programs and such. It is used across the city between Public Works, Public Safety, Transportation. I'm missing one. Missing one probably.
Public safety.
Yeah, I got
fire.
And fire is the other one. So it's used across the board on all those. And what we found here with this particular program, one, it's much more usable from the standpoint of all the items we can add in your newsletter. We can add contracts to it. We can add maintenance type things there that we can't add into the current CityTech program, stating that it pops up like a reminder, you need to be doing this with this mower, that sort of thing. And the other benefit that we have found also that it is a little bit cheaper financially for using this program. The initial upfront costs in this first year would be $22,500. $9,000 of that is the one-time implementation and the inaugural uploading fees. Which basically at that cost is kind of a wash what we pay right now to CityTech. It's around 21 something there right now. So after initially first year, the annual subscription costs will be $13,500. So that'll be a savings from what we pay now to CityTech. So all these departments have looked at it. They're all supportive of it, and so they're not, hate the word these excited, but it's something that we need to use. And
Nobody's excited about it. Software conversion.
Yeah, so
At least of all the clerks that are using it.
but it will be more user friendly, and it will be a financial savings for us here in the coming years, and it's something we have to have. So.
Sounds like a good plan. We have motion support on the table. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Resolutions. We're to consider a resolution to ratify the following investment of city funds. And for us tonight, we have 2 CDs, commercial and Flagstar, $350 and $385 for 2 different terms. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
We have motion support. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We are to consider a resolution to authorize the use of North State Street from the north side of Superior Street to Downey Street as needed for the Alma Farm Market each Saturday from 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., which will be beginning June 1st, 2026 and running through October 31st, 2026.
Move to adopt.
Support. We have a motion support.
This is our 3rd year of using this area. It seems to be popular and growing, so hopefully we continue to do it this year. So
Yeah, I think it's been well received. I think it was a good move to put it there. So. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Number 3, we are to consider a resolution approving the Alma Highland Festival Committee's request to operate their entertainment tent on the campus of Alma College from 7 p.m. till midnight on Friday, May 22nd, and 11 a.m. to midnight on Saturday, May 23rd, and from noon to 6 p.m. on Sunday, May 24th, pursuant to ordinance number 695, which allows the commission to approve the 3-day variance to the noise ordinance. Move to adopt.
Support.
We have motion support.
just so everyone can enjoy some outdoor music and some beverages.
Sounds like fun.
That's right, yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Excuse me, any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, we are considering a resolution or an amendment to the resolution 2026-0068, which is MDOT or MDOT Annual Performance Resolution amending the 2026 banners and street closures table to include the addition of a banner for Rural Urban Day from May 26th to June 25th, 2026.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Got a motion support, other comments and questions?
This is the first time we're.
Yeah, we've never had a rural urban
We haven't
day.
done that ever,
Okay.
so they came to us and said, is there an option to do that? And then we have a window right after festival, so
Does the state make us
we have to request.
each one?
Yeah, yes.
They have to be done, every time we change a banner, they have to know?
Well, we put it in that table,
Yeah.
so we didn't have that when that table that we submitted, so we have to add this to the table to send to MDOT to let them know that we're putting that over.
We can't make one submission, say we've got these banner poles and we can
We
put them
have
up
to
on
do-
one?
Sorry,
No.
we have to do a separate permit, we have to ask each time.
How tedious. Seems absolutely absurd to me, but
And it's, and as you know, with our new poles, I'm not worried about anything being caught on our particular.
No.
No. So, and that's where, usually they're so particular about it, is because it's a straight trunk line and,
so I thought maybe with these new poles, I mean, before we had a couple of lag bolts on a building.
yeah.
This is substantially different.
Substantially, yes. But no, that's what we have to do in the
Okay.
process.
Thank you. And all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. And we're considering a resolution declaring noxious weeds a public hazard and a nuisance pursuant to section 22-62 and 22-63 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alma, and that all affected property owners be notified to abate such nuisances.
Move to adopt.
Easy for you to say. Motion support. Are there any comments or questions? Nothing new here.
It's just everyone has to mow their grass, keep it 10 inches or less throughout the whole summer, so.
All right, and one comment to add is please don't mow it into the roadway.
Please don't do that. No, again, not just for bicycles or
Yeah, it's very
motorcycles.
dangerous.
It also gets in our
Clogs the sewers.
and sewers, yep, sanitary, or storm sewers.
Yeah. Is that, do we have an ordinance against that, mowing into the roadway?
I
I don't know if you ever enforce it, but I'm just curious.
I think we have a
If it's a violation that we can-
materials, like if someone piled it up there, we do have an ordinance, so we can go out and deal with it. I don't think, like Dave was kind of mentioning, we've gone out and hammered someone on a mower doing it. We have done it with piling of leaves, that sort of stuff. We haven't done that. But
I'm not looking to fine anybody, just if you got an ordinance you can point to and say, please don't do this again, that's,
it would be helpful if people didn't do that. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
when people, call us, especially
is
this
dangerous.
the wet part of the year, this is this kind of stuff that causes these backups. If we can't keep those storm lines clear as we can, this is when we have backups, and that's when we get these phone calls. This is part of that maintenance thing. All people have to do is just help us out a little bit. So,
Which is why we need an ordinance.
well, we do, like I said, we do have that. You're not supposed to.
I know, but
Yeah.
yes.
well, every ordinance is because somebody did something.
Exactly.
We don't think of these things without somebody doing
Correct.
something, so.
Then it comes down to going out, enforcing,
Oh, right.
writing letters,
Yeah.
just
And
getting
it's just,
notified
I think,
people.
that's what I
normally
was
just
saying,
a
that it's easier
acknowledgement.
to remind gently, if
We
if
try
we
that
have
every year
something
with,
to, well, if we
my
have something
frustration
to
is
back it
every
up.
fall, when we ask folks
Correct.
to please don't put the leaves into the street, just put it to the curb and
Yep.
again and again and
Oh,
again. So,
absolutely.
yeah, but anyway,
Yep.
we won't dwell on that right now.
We just did. Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Moving to ordinances, we are to consider a resolution to introduce ordinance number 852, which is an ordinance to amend the City of Alma Code of Ordinances at section 60-36 and the City of Alma zoning ordinance at section 60-61 to regulate the requisite front yard setback for real property that is located in R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District.
Move to introduce the ordinance.
Support.
Good motion, support. Do you want to give me a background?
Yep, just real quickly, we talked about it at the last meeting. This would effectively, in all R1 single-family residential districts, take the front yard setback from its current 30 to 25 feet, which would match it up with our R1A zoning district and our R2 zoning district. The R3, which is the multifamily residential, that would stay at 30 feet. But that would be citywide, and just to give you, on the map up there, it's all the light greenish colored part of the map up there is the R1 zoning district, so it'll be citywide. You're going for, if it's
More
approved,
consistent.
more consistent,
Yeah.
so just, it also gives folks an extra little breathing room if they wanted to build something on their front porch or front of the house, gives them a little extra room to work with too, so.
And much of our city doesn't come close to having that. There's
No.
sections that... All right, so we do have a motion on the table. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Agreements. We are to consider a resolution to approve a 5-year agreement with Wind Telecom for telecommunication services, including fax lines for various departments and dark fiber cable services for the city. Also to authorize the city clerk to execute the agreement. Sounds interesting.
Yes, it is.
Move to adopt.
Okay, we have motion support.
Yeah, these-
Explain your dark
yeah, my
services.
It's just, well, Drew knows it better than I do. There's a certain types of communications that we still do need a fax line for. That's why the fax line there. And the dark stuff is hardwired equipment that doesn't necessarily here at City Hall, but other facilities within our network that we have, so.
It's different than the dark web.
Yes, it's not the, that.
Hardwired.
But hardwired.
Okay, any comments or questions? Drew, anything we should know? Anything he's not telling us?
It's, this is the low cost options, yes, very much so.
Yeah.
If we went, like say for the fax
I mean, it's a
stuff,
price reduction, right?
yes, yeah, if we went to some of the services that we need, say on the police side of things for faxing different case things down to the prosecutor's office, and we did it electronically, we'd have to buy a piece of software and all these other things that come along with that for, making it confidential.
Yeah.
Then we can send it through the fax.
I
It's-
will never understand how
yeah.
a fax is more I mean,
Yeah.
I get it, and I know what the
You can't-
rules are.
it's hardwired.
But that people can't just walk by and grab it off the fax too? I mean,
Well, it's not that piece of it.
I know, but
Yeah.
it
It's not
just
the
seems...
physical, it's the electronic,
Right,
yeah.
no, but the physical too,
Interdiction.
yeah.
Well, the way things are now, it's much more like with lean and everything
Yeah.
else. You can't just walk into those types of places anymore like we used to. Like
Right.
now we're even closed to the public in our just general area of City Hall.
Right.
That's even more so in the police side of things.
Yeah.
So,
The security threats are real.
Oh, absolutely.
You're absolutely correct.
No, I get it.
and when Curtis and I had a meeting today with our third-party security and IT provider, and that was a big part of our discussion of, the AI threat that's out there that's growing exponentially, and are we covering ourselves and what we should be looking at. So yeah, we had probably a 45-minute conversation about that today, so. And I don't like doing that stuff, but
More money to spend later, I'm sure.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. Number 2, we are to consider a resolution to amend a 1-year contract with NutriGrow Environmental Solutions. This is for the removal and disposal of liquid sludge from the Elmo wastewater treatment plant by adding a fuel surcharge of 1% for every 10-cent increase above $4 per gallon.
Move to adopt.
Support.
A question on that. Is it 1% of the increase above $4? And diesel's already at 5, isn't it? Or better?
Yes,
I mean,
it
should the
is.
baseline really be $4? And then
That's-
is it the 1% of the total price of fuel? Or is it 1% of the price that
That's-
exceeds $4?
Anything that exceeds $4, every 10-cent, 1%, fuel surcharge 1% for every 10 cents increase over $4. So it's already,
Or over.
yeah. So every time the floor is $4. So if it's $4 or less, there's no fuel surcharge. Based on the Midwest U.S. Energy Information Administrative data, the surcharge would be 1% of every 10 cents over that. So every time it goes up 10 cents, it's 1%. So,
So we've already got a 10% increase
Yeah.
built in automatically, right? Because it's already at least $5.
Yeah, it's going to be up. And
It goes up for 10 cents, it's 1% each 10 cents. So if it's 10 cents, it's $4 to $4.10, it's 1%. It's 410 to 420, it's another 1%. It goes up
But
to
is
1%.
it of their fuel usage, or is it of the whole contract?
It's of whatever fuel prices are at that week of the fuel haul.
I guess I'm confused how you're gonna calculate.
If it goes from $4 to $5, it's 1% of that dollar or of the $5?
It's 1% over $4, so the mayor is correct, it's 10 cents once it hits 5, and then
Okay.
when you go over $5, then it goes up.
Okay.
Well, the $6 is 20%, but is it, if we've got a contract for $1,000, is it gonna be, if it's $6, you're talking 20% of the $1,000 contract? Or just their cost of fuel, which might be a couple $100?
It's based on that cost of fuel because of the cost right now. So if that Midwest energy information each week, they post what that average is.
Well, I get that,
So it's based
I know
off
where
of
they're,
that.
and I'm fine with the database they're using, I'm just
Okay.
wondering, because it calls for a 10% or 1% increase to the contract, it looks like to me, I guess I'm not sure the wording here isn't. Is it of the contract price that's going up, or is there just a surcharge for fuel use?
It's for this fuel used,
Okay.
added on to the contract.
Yes.
Kind of like what we did when we had those, the gas fluctuations with one of the trash haulers back
Yes.
a few years
Republic, I
ago.
think.
Yeah, Republic,
Yes.
yeah. It's right along that same type of.
Okay.
Yes.
The idea is hopefully things settle down again and we come back to normal and we don't have a surcharge anymore. Going out for bid in the future, if we ask them to put the fuel in, then it'd be, the price coming back.
Yeah,
would be.
I mean, when they bill you, do they bill you for, I guess, whatever, 10,000 gallons, right, or whatever, your million gallons, whatever they're hauling, and then do they bill you fuel? Is it fuel separate line item on the invoice? That's going
In
to
this
see the
case, from my
increase?
understanding, how it would be, it'd be a separate line item showing us this is the fuel surcharge
Yes.
for that haul.
I'm just concerned that they're getting it on the entire bill of
Right, yeah.
the
No, no.
service rather than just the fuel.
It's on the fuel.
Okay.
It's on the fuel. It's
long
not on
as
it's not on
you're
the haul.
comfortable
Yeah,
with
it's
that.
not on the haul itself, the gallons of
Going
sludge that we
forward, for the
remove.
next bid, we're gonna have to explore this based on what I see. We haven't done it in the last 15 years, 10 years, because the prices have been stable, but this had come up, and
I would just check the math and make sure the wording is as you understand it, because that could be dramatically different.
Yes.
20% of
The whole
the whole contract is way
Yep.
different than
Yep.
20% of their additional
That,
fuel costs.
Dave and I had a conversation with him on Friday, and the understanding is it's on the fuel itself. It's not on the amount of gallons you're taking out of the.
out of the pit, no, it's not.
All right, thank you. Sorry to be so...
No, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Anybody else have comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We'll move on down to reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, excuse me, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. Before us tonight, we have the Board of Review, March 3, 2026 organizational meeting minutes, the Board of Review meeting minutes for March 17, 18, and 19, 2026, Downtown Development Authority, March 25, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Planning Commission, April 6, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Alma Transit March 2026 report, the Alma Police Department March 2026 report, the building permits report for February and March 2026, and the city manager's report, presumably for April 2026? Or April 14, 2026?
That's right.
Okay, your pleasure.
Move to receive 1 through 7.
Support.
We have a motion and support for 1 through 7. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion is carried, and those reports are received.
Move to receive number 8.
Number 8,
Support.
city manager's report. We have a motion support. Eric, could you give us a
Yeah,
background?
just got a couple things for you.
Excuse me.
We got the budget presentation for the proposed budget for the fiscal year 27. So we've already talked about the fuel surcharge and the transition from City Tech. The center water main project is well underway. Got it on Saturday. They started working on that. So far, it seems like traffic is adapting well. I'm not sure quite yet. We're probably looking at a week or so out before we start State Street, Dave.
At least probably another week right now.
At least another week, which will complicate things once that gets started, because people right now, you can see when they're taking their detour, they're coming down Superior Street, hitting State, and then going by Center. So that will, it is what it is. It'll be done this year.
Construction season.
They'll find their way.
They'll find their way around, and but we're excited to get that piece done. Plus, from our perspective, we've talked about as you come around from Center Street on the Lincoln heading up to Wright Avenue and Superior Street there, that was getting very rough through there. That will all be, once that's done, new surface going down, so that'll make that much nicer around that radius there. So when it's done, it'll look very nice. Transit update, we just provided you some updated photos. It's starting to look like a real building on the inside. Currently there, and we talked last meeting that we'd have the bids for you for resurfacing of the current existing parking lot there. MDOT did not finish up their review of the bids that we received, even though we're looking at the low bid. The gentleman that did procurement is retired, so they're...
Is the bid still valid?
Yeah.
I imagine the price is going up as we speak.
Yep, so I hope to have that to you next meeting, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then fun note, the Gratiot Area Chamber Annual Community Celebration is taking place May 7th at YFC. That is a Thursday evening. Social hour starts at 6. The ceremony starts at 7 p.m. If any of the commissioners would like to go, please let me know and I'll get tickets for you.
We can announce the winner at this point, can't we?
Yes.
Wes Wicks is the new Order of the Tartan Award winner for the City of Alma. And the theme for this year's Gratiot dinner is
Kentucky Derby.
Kentucky Derby. Thank you. Couldn't think of the state all of a sudden. Kentucky Derby. So there's a lot of fun stuff that is available there to wear.
So if any of the commissioners go, let me know. We'll get tickets for the commission. So that is all I have for you, sir.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we do have a motion on the table to accept the report. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We've accepted the report. New business, presentation of the fiscal year 2027 annual city budget.
Move to receive. Support.
Motion, support. Curtis, I suppose you're gonna enlighten us?
Let me set the camera.
Multitasking.
It's a budget saver right there.
I was just gonna say,
We gotta
do multiple roles, it makes it a lot easier, so.
go in here.
So, all right, man, it doesn't feel like it's been a year already since we've done this, so, but we're back for another year. I'm gonna kind of fly through it tonight and stop me if I'm going too fast, but if there's anything to describe this year's budget, I would say this is, since I've been here, at least this has probably been the least amount of change and the most kind of status quo budget we've had, so there isn't a ton of changes, some more futuristic questions that we'll kind of talk about at the end. And we have a couple of things like we do every year that we'll talk about, but I'm going to just kind of buzz through it because there wasn't, like I said, there's not a lot of changes as far as the real meat and potatoes of the budget this year. So no changes to the funds that we have and the funds that we're approving by the City Commission. No changes to our millage rates for the local millages that are being received. No changes to the types of revenue that we receive for the general fund. If we look at our general fund revenue, very consistent with years past. Basically, half of our general fund revenue comes from property taxes. Another 30% comes from intergovernmental revenue, which is state funding, grants, federal funding, anything that we get basically from another municipality. The third one, the 10%, is internal service charges. So those are not actual revenue necessarily to the city. It's revenue to the general fund that's charged to the enterprise funds. So it's from the general fund standpoint, it's revenue in, but it's not revenue to the city because it's really just us paying ourselves for internal service charges. And then basically everything else makes up that last little less than 10%. General fund trends, with the exception of a little bit of a spike in 2024, it's been really consistent. If you remember, 2024 is when we spent our ARPA money. So we got approximately 1.2 million for ARPA funds that we were able to spend that year. So that year we saw a little bit of a spike, but other than that, you can kind of see for the most part a pretty consistent, small but steady trend up. And we'll kind of talk a little bit later about whether we expect that to continue, but Revenues by category, again, for the most part, you can see fairly consistent. Intergovernmental revenue, again, 2024, that's where we had that spike, and that had mostly to do with ARPA funds. This year, you can see a little bit of a spike in intergovernmental revenue as well. That mostly comes from the money that we received from the state for the grant for the park at Riverside. So that's included in this year's budget. So that really is what makes up the majority of that spike in the intergovernmental revenue. Trends over the last 10 years, we've seen 43% increase in revenue in the general funds, about 4% annually, approximately 3% in property tax revenue. And we kind of, from talking to legislators and listening to all the conversations going on in the state, we are expecting that to continue to go down, as well as interest rates continue to fall. So it's been kind of a nice, last couple of years have been kind of a nice year from a revenue standpoint. It's been great. We've been able to get some projects done, do some things, but that's not necessarily going to be probably the trend continuing going forward. Really, the tax base continues to be our most consistent increase in revenue and our largest form of revenue. So if we talk about how to increase revenue, again, there's small things that we can do here and there with different rates and stuff, but really the majority of what you're going to see as an impact is going to be increasing that tax base. Expenditures, here are kind of our overarching departments that we use for expenditures in the general fund. Community development, you can see we had a spike in 2024. That was mostly due to the parking lots. Obviously, for the most part, a lot of these times if you see big spikes, it's going to be just differences in capital projects because we do budget our capital projects within the fund in which they are for. So you can kind of see, really, if you take out the 24 and 25 for the parking lots, it's been pretty consistent for community development year over year. Community safety continues to see just, inflationary type increases year over year. Nothing that really stands out as far as anything, like I said, other than typical inflationary wages that really cause that to go up year over year, but for the most part, pretty consistent. Executive administration, this has the most individual departments within it, so that's why you can see sometimes some changes here. But again, nothing that really jumps out as far as really significant changes from year over year. If there is, it's usually just because we did a capital project, for example, for IT, we had a year where we did some more capital projects, so that inflated it a little bit that year. Elections obviously vary depending on how many elections we have and what requirements that we have from the state as far as what we have to purchase for capital assets and stuff like that. But again, nothing that really should jump out as an outlier for any of those funds. Fiscal services is your finance and administration and your assessing departments. Again, for the most part, the last couple of years, just kind of steady increases. Most of that is personnel costs, and because there's not really a lot of capital in assessing and finance, it's very much personnel time for the most part. Property maintenance, same thing, pretty steady, pretty consistent. Especially with the cemetery, there was a little bit extra in the cemetery the year we did a capital project there, but again, for the most part, nothing should jump out.
Sorry, Curtis, can you go back a slide to assessing?
Yeah.
Shouldn't there have been a spike? I'm trying to look, when we did the reassessment?
The reassessments would have been before.
Was that prior?
That was prior to me being here, so yeah, so that's been a few years now.
So showing my age.
So yeah, I think that happened, I think it was right before COVID.
Yeah, I think it was just before COVID.
Right before COVID, so.
Yeah, now that I think about it, it was
2020.
been a minute. So.
19 or 20.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
The other thing that comes to mind, I just wonder, is there a way, and maybe you don't have an answer now, but I just get you thinking, is there a way to take some of the noise out of these budgets and do like one-time capital projects as, general funds, sub-funds, and track them differently so we can compare true daily normal operations versus these one-time spikes that, to me, makes it really hard to judge what's going on in the city.
Yeah, we absolutely can. We do, the way that we do it, we can run different reports, and we do for internal reports, we do at net of capital, because that's the best way to see.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to stop your spikes and your ebbs and flows from when you have major capital.
So maybe we could see some of that as well. It would be helpful, I think, to our commission. So
Sure.
We can have that for the next presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Because it does get
Right.
If you remember all those little one-time things, it's great, but
Right.
I don't, so. Nope, then I ask you a question. So, thank you.
Yeah, we talked about park maintenance, parks and culture. Again, an increase this year. That's mostly due to the park capital project we're going to do over at Riverside Park. That is mostly grant funded. I think there's a 26% match component to that that's built in here. But it's still the full expenditures in the budget and then offset by the revenue. And then transportation, again, spike came from capital projects, mostly for streetlights downtown. We did a couple of extra streetlight projects when we had in last year's budget, because we had a little bit of extra 2025 money that we were able to move over to 2020, that we rolled into 2026 and did an additional capital project to get another block done of the streetlights downtown. So that brings us to our capital project summary for this year. We're projecting to do $670,000 worth of capital projects in the general fund. Those are the list of the capital projects we plan on doing. Nothing, again, that really, a lot of that is kind of things that we do for the most part. Patrol vehicle every year, sidewalk replacement program every year, street light replacements until we get done. We've been trying to do a block every year. The additional parks capital improvements, that's the money that we use from the state revenue that we get in for the marijuana revenue sharing that we've dedicated every year to the parks. And then the election equipment is based on new changes, and maybe we'll get lucky and that'll get reimbursed by the state. Either way, it sounds like we're probably gonna have to do it, and maybe we'll just be able to get some extra revenue from the state. So if anyone from the state's listening, we'll take it if you'll. So that brings us to our total general fund budget. We have $7,080,000 projected in revenue. For our expenditures, we have $4.5 million approximately in personnel. We have about $1.8 million in operating costs, $670,000 in capital. Brings us to that $7,080,000 in expenditures, which means we have a balanced general fund budget with no reserves required. How this compares to the last couple of years. I think every year I talk about this, it's just a general guideline, but what we really like to see is somewhere in the neighborhood of a 60-30-10 split between personnel, operating, and capital. Obviously, if we can do a little more, especially in the capital, we like to do that. But again, a lot of that's dependent on what grant revenue and stuff we can get to help pay for different capital projects. So in 2027, our split is about 60%, 27%, or 28%-ish and 12%. So we're definitely within those realms that we look at as just a general, again, they're general guidance, but it really shows you, if those get kind of out of whack, that's when you know you've kind of got either too much in one area or not enough in another area. So we kind of use this more as a general guideline just to make sure we're kind of on track. So, and we definitely seem to be on track for 2027. Breakdown by departments. So for the general fund, a little over 50% of our general fund budget comes from community safety. And then we have a little over 10% for executive administration and fiscal services. Those are the big three that we typically have in expenditures, especially from an operation standpoint. And then again, like property maintenance and recreation and culture, but parks and transportation, a lot of times those are smaller unless there's a capital project that tends to inflate them from year over year. But for the most part, you're looking at a little over half for community safety, and then another 10 to 15% each for executive administration and fiscal services, and then the other departments make up the rest. So that moves us on to the other governmental funds. Again, I'm going to blitz through these because there really isn't a lot to really talk about until we get to the end. The big thing here you'll see is for revenue, especially in the major streets, is a really nice spike in revenue. So one of the things that the state did with their budget last year is create new funding for roads. We still don't have an exact split between majors and locals from the state, nor do we have an exact number of what we're going to get for an increase. It's still all projection right now because it's all based on revenue projections. So we have estimates based on their revenue estimate numbers, but every time they have a revenue estimate, our funding estimate has also changed. So it does look like we are expected in this first year to see a pretty nice spike in revenue for the roads, which is nice because we did lose some money on the state side, on the general fund side. So at least in this case, we did at least make up some of what we lost somewhere else, and we definitely have enough street projects to do it. So we've been able to build that into this year's budget. Everything else is staying relatively consistent. For major streets, 2026, we had Pine Avenue, so again, that's where your kind of spike is in 2026, and then in 2027, we are projecting to do about $850,000 worth of capital projects for streets. I don't know if we've officially decided what street, or I know we've talked about a couple of different ideas, but we think budget-wise, we can afford to do about $850,000 in reconstructions, and that's in addition to our crack seal and chip seal stuff that we do every year as maintenance. So that's an addition to, not a replacement valve. So we'll be able to do some crack seals and chip seals and road maintenance stuff, plus do some reconstruction stuff with this new money, which is exciting. 'Cause again, we've got plenty of streets that can use it. On the local street side, we're focused mostly on just those, the crack seals and chip seals and stuff. We're not projecting a local street reconstruction for this year's budget, but we are an increase in the amount of road maintenance that we can do. And then on the millage side of things, we are not doing a reconstruction this year because we did all of our reconstructions that had to do with water as part of the SRF project the last 2 years. But to note that there is still $120,000 that we're doing in maintenance as part of that extra mill that we got a couple years ago when we did the millage increase. So even though we're not doing a reconstruction this year, there's still going to be road projects that are going to be able to be done. So that's where that comes in. And then on the recreation side of things, this is for the grant that we got that started in 2024. So 2026 was obviously our peak year. 2027, we are only budgeting to do until the grant expires in September. We are not, in this current budget as it stands, projecting to continue to do the program after September 30th, and we'll talk about that in a future slide as well. Component units, we got the DDA in the library. Revenue, DDA fairly consistent except for a one-time donation 1 year. Library, you see it looks less the last couple of years compared to the first 3 years on that graph. Keep in mind that the debt, this also included the debt millage that came off the books. So for those first couple of years, a lot of that revenue was to pay back the bond, and now that the bond is off the books, that kind of is your dip in revenue. So operational revenue is still going up. It just looks like it's going down because of that debt millage. DDA budget, the big thing in this year is just finishing up the downtown tree project. I believe all the tree removal is going to be done in the current fiscal year, but some of the replacements and some of the getting things smoothed out and looking the way it's going to be is going to happen in next year's budget. So the big thing in the DDA is finishing up that tree project. Library operations, fairly consistent, just normal increases in things, it's like personnel costs and operating costs, everything's going up. The other thing to keep in mind, again, we'll talk about this in our future slides, but the last couple of years, almost all of the library programming has been paid through our grant, because our grant was a programming grant, which included the library. So they haven't had to take out of their budget any programming expenses the last couple of years. So with that going away, they had to add back in order to continue doing the programming that they do. They had to add that back into their budget, which means they had to take things out of their budget in order to get to a balanced budget. So the other thing in there is a capital project. So we do have budgeted in there to replace one of the AC units at the library this year. And we'll talk about that in a future slide as far as how we're going to pay for that. But with what we saw in with the one that failed last year, how long it took to get that replaced, and the fact that the other one that's there is the same age as that one, plus it's used more and is more heavily used, we feel that is on borrowed time, and we don't, with the potential, as much as I think the last time we heard like a 10-month leeway, we figured that we probably shouldn't wait until it's not working to order it, because that's going to be for a hot summer if we don't get it replaced before it fails. And with the other one already failing, we kind of feel like we're on borrowed time with the AC unit at the library.
We're funding depreciation?
We are not funding depreciation, we're budgeting depreciation.
Okay.
So,
It's deceptive, because I see the line item.
Yes, that will be a future slide discussion, yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
It's in a slide. It's
Yeah,
coming.
okay.
Enterprise funds, again, revenue trends, not really much to see. Transit, the decrease from the previous couple years was when we reduced the millage from 1 mil to 0.8, plus less federal funding as the federal funding rate continues to go down. And then all the other rates are basically just going up by our percentage increase as part of our 5-year rate analysis. State Street, We're hoping that this is not even an issue. We're hoping that this is sold, that it's currently for sale, so if anybody would like to purchase it, that is for sale. If it's not, we basically just rolled the budget from last year, and we're going to continue things status quo until it sells. So we had to have it in here because if it's not sold by July 1st, we have to have a budget for it, but the goal will be that it'll be sold and not really on our radar. Transit, you see a huge spike in 2026. That's a $3 million building, so that really does create a pretty nice spike there. Again, federally funded, but still budgeted for in our 2026 budget. So we're not planning on a major capital expenditures for 2027. So that's really where the decrease is. Operational and personnel are just, again, pretty status quo with just our inflationary increases. Wastewater, we kind of had a spike in 2026 budgeted. We're not going to end up using that. So if you remember back to last year's budget, we budgeted to do the lift station in 2026. We've started that project as far as collecting the data that we need for that, based on some strategic discussions that we've had with bond counsel and with our financial advisors. We think we're going to push that off and do that. It won't be part of the SRF project, but if we bond it at the same time as we bond the rest of the SRF project, we can cut down significantly on costs because we'd have to do one bond, and because we can package them together, we can get a better rate. So we're kind of kicking that off, but that's not because that's a strategic plan from a financial standpoint, and because we're still collecting data. So it kind of just, timing-wise, it's going to work out well to just save us a little bit of money by being able to push it out just a little bit further. So that'll all get wrapped up with the SRF. Water distribution, again, huge spike in 2026 is that as we paid for all of our SRF projects. Our SRF project should be done before the end of this fiscal year, so we won't have any of those projects in 2027. So that's why that's going back down. And then our 596 fund basically is one of the most status quo funds that we have. It's pretty, the contract with, for our trash and recycling service goes up 5% every year. And then just minor fluctuations year over year, just depending on the seasons, how much we need for leafing and yard waste pickup. But for the most part, of all of our funds, it's one of the easier ones just to kind of know what it is and status quo. We do budget for a small loss in this every year. We talked about this a couple of years ago. That fund has a fund balance that's fairly healthy, and we've kind of made the strategic decision of eating into that a little bit without increasing rates for the first couple of years of our 5-year rate study. And lastly is our internal service fund. This is our public works motor pool fund. Again, not a whole lot here that's out of the ordinary. Pretty status quo for the most part here. Which leads us just into our 10 burning questions going forward. Like I said, some of these are for this year's budget, some of these are just moving forward, just things that we should be thinking about for our budgets. First one, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but general fund revenue. We've seen decreases in our state statutory revenue sharing. That doesn't seem to be going in a positive direction from the conversations that are being had at the state. We continue to have people that are definitely fighting on the locals' behalfs, but we'll see kind of where those go. Veterans exemptions continue to eat into the local budgets because those are something that are not being reimbursed by the state. And from the last conversation that I heard, it's not sound like that's even on their radar to fund. So that'll just continue to grow bigger and bigger. Also at the state level this year, they're talking about other tax cuts that they want to do with the for property taxes for seniors and for some other groups. The initial conversations are if they make any cuts, they're going to make the locals whole. Been told that before, so I will, again, I hold out hope that they hold up their end of the bargain, but I've been told this before, so depending on what happens, depending on what happens there, that will potentially have an impact on us. And then other revenue sources, cable franchise fees have been down like 25% in the last 4 years. Our state marijuana revenue sharing was down this year. We're just seeing across the board. We had like a 4-year stretch where it seemed like everything was going up, and then we kind of this current fiscal year, we kind of plateaued, and now we're seeing things really starting to go down. So as far as, again, long-term sustainability, the only thing that, and most of the stuff, unfortunately, are things that we don't really have a lot of control over. We don't control interest rates. We don't control what the state gives us in reimbursements. We don't control what the state decides to give tax breaks on. really the best thing we can do here is just make sure we're continuing to build that tax base, because that's really the best shot at getting sustainable revenue long-term. Downtown parking lots. As you might have noticed in the budget, I know we've talked about this a few times, but we did not include the last 2 downtown parking lots as part of our budget. It was part of our original, what we put together, but in order to balance the budget in the general fund, we did remove those. That was projected cost of about $650,000. Realistically, moving forward, I don't see it being something that we can fit into our budget and continue to have a balanced budget moving forward either. So we will be getting to the point where basically our options with funding those last 2 parking lots are either going to be pull it out of fund balance, hold out till we get a grant, or find another way to pay for it. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer. It's just the cost of it is more than what the general fund can afford while maintaining a balanced budget. We do have fund balance. That's something that we've talked about in the past, that fund balance can be there for capital improvements. So I'm not saying that that's not an option to consider. Something that definitely this group should probably talk about if that's something that's a high priority for them to try to fit in. But realistically, there's not enough things to realistically cut to fit it into a current year or future year budget and maintain a balanced budget without funding from somewhere. So,
And excuse me, coming off of Curtis's comment that we've been talking about this at DDA quite a bit, and we've gone from, the high end of total reconstruction to some sort of a rehab project, which is where this number is at. Part of it also, the discussions are not just to, we take it out of fund balance or wherever we come from, but that we need to put together some sort of a assessment for maintenance of the parking lots going forward. So the investments we made, the ones that we do have built up, that we can maintain those. But we're going to have to make a decision on it. The two parking lots that are remaining do need to be done. And I need to go out and have public meetings like we did about the trees and discuss, the options, where we're gone. But part of that discussion, I kind of do need some direction, not necessarily tonight, but what is the commission's inclination of paying, how to pay for those? Because that will dictate that conversation with property owners, business owners downtown. We'll never be able to charge enough in a millage to pay for rehabbing of, you just can't. I think we estimated it at 26 mils. It was something
insane. Yeah, it's not realistic.
Yeah, it's not realistic. So to come up with, which, if we'd done it back in the 80s, we'd have a fund there to do some maintenance, and who knows where we'd be with our concept. We maintained them over the last 40 years. They've been there 40 years. So that's something that I will need as the manager, as I go out and talk to everybody, these public meetings, of what this board's inclination is to do that, because they do need to be rehabbed for a multitude of reasons. And there has been a lot of investment in the downtown, and the tax base is there also, and it's just time. It's a bummer that we have to deal with it. I have to deal with it, but we took it out so you could see a balanced budget. But there's no way, like Curtis said, that if we put it back in, there's no way to take from here to make it work. It had to come out of the fund balance. So I'll turn it back over there. Sorry.
Thanks for ahead. All right, next conversation, information technology continues to be a growing concern from a lot of standpoints. We've been hearing a lot from staff. Eric and I have been hearing a lot from staff about frustrations with our current IT service, our current provider, our current just environment in general. We've done, Eric and I both, Aaron's help as well, we've done a lot of vetting of different options over the last year and a half. The one thing I can tell you is that our price point, what we have right now, is really good. And we've vetted some different alternatives. There's some things that are promising. We haven't came up with anything yet that has been anywhere even close to the ballpark of what we're paying now. So any change going forward pretty much is guaranteed to have a significant impact on, or a significant cost increase. Now that's spread across all the departments, so that's what makes it almost even a little bit more challenging. It's not like we're just saying, okay, well, we gotta take it out of the general fund. anybody that uses IT would have to pay a portion of that. So now you're talking about not just affecting one budget, but you're affecting literally every budget in the city. And while everybody had shown frustrations, no one's really also been raising their hand saying, I'm willing to pay 3 times more in IT services to have better service. So it's just something that what we have now is working, but it definitely has holes. It's definitely led to a lot of frustrations. So I think that as we move forward, looking at those options and just really trying to figure out what we want as an IT, what we can afford, what we feel is an appropriate level of service is going to be something that we're going to have to talk about. And again, chances are anything we do other than just continuing with status quo is going to come with a pretty significant price tag. So that's kind of where we're at right now with our IT environment. Number 4, cemetery, reaching a dead end. I just put that in there to make sure everyone was still paying attention, and I had lost you guys completely with that, and I had to
But I'm bummed.
I know, I had to keep up with Dave too, you know, you have to follow Dave, you have to come up with something funny. So, cemetery actually has, the last couple of years, we've kind of stabilized a little bit. That was one of the ones, if you remember a couple of years ago, we talked about that cost was just year over year rising and rising and rising. I think COVID obviously had a large impact in that. Now that we're a couple of years removed from that, our number of cemetery plots sold, our number of burials and stuff have kind of plateaued and even decreased a little bit. Even our cost to do them seems to have steadied. I think part of that has been prior to this year, the last couple of years, we've done really well with getting some really good seasonals that have helped be able to take some of the burden off of the cemetery and the park's costs because obviously the more seasonals we have doing that work, they're at a lower charge than what a full-time person was. But still, when we look at all of our funds, this is one of our largest this is one of our largest single funds outside of public safety in our general fund, and it also comes with a lot of high expectations from people. It's one that we get probably one of the most frequent calls when things are not perfect. So we are continuing to look at our rates. We do think that our rates are below what a lot of our neighbors and stuff are. So we have been working on putting together a rate analysis to bring to the board to talk about potential rate increases. We'd also like to really look at potentially increasing the amount that we put towards the cemetery endowment for perpetual care. It's one of the best deals you can ever get because it's very, very cheap and it's forever. And the cost continues to go up, but what you pay into your endowment does not. So that's another way that we'll look at trying to get some more money to make the cemetery more. It's never going to be profitable. It's never even going to break even, but we got to figure out a way to keep it so that it's not eating up where we're taking away from other things in the city to be able to pay for it. So our goal isn't our goal is never to make it profitable. Our goal is to make it sustainable. So that's really what we're going to focus on in the next couple of years. Personnel costs, this is just across the board. It's a tough conversation to have because, you know, we've done COLAs the last few years. We've tried to do things. Everyone's gotten a step increase that's been eligible for it and qualified for it. Even with that, we're not keeping up with inflation. And with that being said, even with what we're giving, our expenses are growing faster than our revenue. So we kind of got this double-edged sword of, you know, we want to try to keep up with inflation to be fair to our personnel. But we also have to do it in a way that fits within the budget, and those two things have struggled the last couple of years. And, you know, one of the things that the city manager and I have talked about is, you know, finding ways that we can give employees things that maybe don't cost, but can give them additional incentives and make it nice to work here without having to, you know, pay more for it. And we have done a couple things last year. We changed our insurance this year, which was a cost savings. We've done a lot of things to help offset those costs, but as we talked about, revenue is going in the wrong direction, and to be able to keep up with inflation, but also be able to not have our personnel costs grow so high that we can't afford to keep the personnel that we have is definitely something that we're looking at as we continue to move forward.
Curtis, we're still down like 3 people compared to where we were 3 or 4 years ago, correct?
We are down in the general fund. I think we're down 4 full-time people since the time that I took over.
Yeah.
So yes, we are still down. We've been able to, in a couple of our enterprise funds, been able to start slowly bringing a couple of those back, but really, yeah, in the general fund, we are working slowly to try to bring some of that back. We're trying to find different ways to shift costs around and stuff to make things some affordable, and we do have a couple of things that hopefully in the next few weeks might be able to bring to you that have some potential, but yeah, we are still down in full-time equivalents in the general fund.
Which adds pressure to our current staff.
Yes, everyone's taking on more.
It's one of those double-edged
You're right, I know,
keep saying
I'm just
double-edged sword. It's like you gotta pay people that's their
Right.
value.
Yeah.
But then you only have so much money. Do you pay
Right.
people value, or do you hire a bunch of people that you can't keep because you're not paying for their value? So that's where we're kind of in that area right now. You know, Curtis and I talk, not just for this year, but that's why the burning questions going into the next, what do we do next year, looking at things. So, and hopefully we can show value in maybe some other ways to say, gosh, we can't, at some point, we've been doing pretty good the last 3 years, 4 years given a COLA, so.
We've also deferred a lot of maintenance.
Yes, we did that in the past, yes.
Yeah, for decades, and
Yes.
that catches up to you eventually as well.
Yes. Well, the quality of life and try to keep, tax base, high, keep it up here, people making it, they feel that it's worth paying their taxes to be in a community. They want to keep it presentable, so, sorry, Bruce.
Okay, talked about, so we bring this back up, programming. September 30th, the program grant is expected to expire. Like I said, as of now, with the way the current budget that we did to bring a balanced budget to you, we are not planning on doing any programming in the parks after September 30th. We're still planning on doing some programming at the library, but not probably as much as what we've done in the past, just because, again, the grant program was paying for a lot of the library stuff as well, so they've been able to add back in some of it to their budget, but not probably to the extent of what we did before when we had the grant to pay for it. So unless this, kind of the same thing we talked about with the parking lots, I think everybody on the surface would love to see programming continue. I certainly would. I think it's been a great asset, but realistically, to add it back into the general fund and maintain a balanced general fund budget is not really realistic without basically cutting another program. I mean, we're not talking $5,000 to try to move around here. We're talking an entire, full-time personnel and programming costs. So I think we estimated probably best case scenario, it would probably cost somewhere between $75,000 and $90,000 to continue a program at close to the level of what we've been doing it the last couple of years. So we're still continuing to search for grants. If we can get a grant, awesome. We found a couple that are smaller, not to the extent of the one that we've had. We've had a couple that have some potential to help. The biggest thing that we're finding is that pretty much every grant that we're finding right now is it'll pay for the program expenses, but it won't pay for any personnel. And as we just said, we're down 4 full, we can't really expect somebody that already has 3 titles to their name to also add on programmer. So without having a dedicated person to really see these programs through, obviously it helps to have the programs themselves paid for, but realistically we still can't even take those on without a person here, and that person comes with a cost. So right now we have it basically set to expire September 30th and not continue it going forward. And if we can find a grant between now and then, we'll bring that opportunity to the board, or if anyone has any other ideas or knows of any other funding ways to keep it going, we're happy to hear it. But as of right now, that is the plan as of the budget, the way it's currently sitting. Library concerns for capital. So back to the mayor's point when he asked about funding for depreciation. A few years ago when the library had funding concerns and we sat down and worked together to come up with a balanced budget, a balanced operating budget. We did so without funding depreciation at that time. That was a decision that was made that library board was involved in. The library director and I very much involved in and brought it to the board, and the board agreed to. At the time it worked. It was a good thing to do to right the ship at the time, and was very necessary. And kind of said, right now we don't have any capitals in the next couple of years. We can, eventually it's going to catch up to us, but we can get away with it right now. Well, that time is now where it's catching up to us, where we haven't been funding depreciation, so the fund balance that is left in the library is not enough to pay for the capital projects that are on the horizon for the next 5 years, based on what the Public Works department has put together as far as needed capital. I know we talked about the AC unit. I know the parking lot over there, the roof over there, a couple of other things are all in the next 5-year plan. Yeah, right now, we really don't have a good funding mechanism to pay for that, so.
Personally, I think the only way to do it, we're gonna have to go back to the voters. I mean, we paid off the bond to build the thing. I think it's time we're gonna have to go back, whether it's a sinking fund or, like some sort of capital fund, and get some of that millage reinstated. Cover this. I don't see any other way, and I think the community would support it, quite honestly. The library is heavily used, much appreciated, and I don't see any other funding sources coming forward, but so I think we probably need to take a look at that.
That would definitely be the cleanest way to do it if we're okay with raising rates.
Well, nobody's going to like it, but I think people do understand the value they're getting for their dollar on these things. And like with the road millage, nobody likes writing the check, but everybody likes seeing the roads in better shape. I mean, they're not perfect by any stretch of imagination.
But you can definitely see the improvements.
But you can see the difference in town that money has made. And I think the same thing can be said about the library and programming and the services that are being given there, that people do understand the value.
Well, if that's something that the board is willing to at least look into, we can definitely bring options. There's a couple different ways you can do it. That's one thing that is kind of nice, is there's not one way to do it. There's a couple different ways, and obviously I think the goal would be to maximize and get the most that we need for the library with the least amount of cost to the public. So different ways to do it, but if that's something that the board's open to, we will definitely start doing our homework and bring in something the board is a possibility. So definitely. Trans expansion, not going to spend a lot of time on this. We've been talking about this. It seems to be gaining some steam. I know it was talked about at the last county commission meeting. There's been some internal meetings even here. The real question for that is just, I think, making sure that we're in a position so that if it does happen, we have the capability to take it over and are able to see the expansion forward. So, I mean, obviously that's not just as simple as everyone wants it, so we add it tomorrow. There's staffing, there's building, there's fleet, there's a lot of things. So, again, I don't think this is gonna happen in the next 6 months. All I know it isn't. It's not really possible that we could do it in the next 6 months, but it's gonna be a multi-year buildup if it is gonna happen. So just making sure that we continue to have those conversations and be ready for it when so that we're ready when they're ready. Wastewater, again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's really everything with wastewater is really hinging on how bids come in for the SRF project. We've kind of already talked about it, we've kind of already prefaced it honestly right now we don't know what to expect. With what's going on in the world, what's going on in the state, what's going on with costs, with everything, we just talk about fuel cost, everything. We're even basically being told by the engineers, we're going to give you our best guess. We don't know. We're seeing so much volatility that we're just guessing. So we'll be back when those bids come in, but just, I guess, be prepared that we're going to have, unfortunately, the way that the timeline works, we're going to have some very big dollar decisions made in very short periods of time, because we are going to have basically we're going to have one meeting from the time we read bids to the time we have to tell the state whether or not we're moving forward. There's a possibility of throwing a special meeting in there if needed for more discussion, but I mean, that's how tight this timeline is we're not gonna have any clue ahead of time really what to expect. So it's gonna be, a lot of sitting and waiting and then go. So just wanna make sure that's prefaced, that's coming, and it's gonna probably be numbers that are gonna shock us.
And the big thing will be, and Fishbeck will be here to work with us of prioritizing. Maybe we can only do A, B, and C. We were hoping to do A, B, C, D, E. And then, Curtis's comment here about rates, we've talked a lot about folks of trying to, not push them too far. So trying to put what we need, what we do have to do, and then put it within our budget of what our rates are. I mean, I don't think it'll be staff's, push to this board, you need to raise rates. It's like, what can we do? But if it's close, maybe you do want to take a look at those rates. But, the community has taken, a pretty big increase in water and sewer over the last 5 years, and there's some options that we're looking at. Like last year, we did move some of the dollars that we were charging on the water side to the sewer side, and there might be some more room there, we're discussing, to do that again in this budget to help out a little bit with it. But, you know, we don't want to push too far with our residents either, so.
Again, our goal, to maximize the dollars we have. Like, we really want to, we know what we can afford, and we really want to make sure we get everything we can for what we can, but.
The system has to function.
Yes.
Exactly, that's what we,
unfortunately.
And you know, the conversation is going to be had too, you know, you might have to, in order to see the efficiencies in the operation, you might have to spend a little more on the capital side to see the savings here. So it might be one of those things where maybe, you know, we might have to raise their RTS a little bit, but be able to lower the operational costs, because, I mean, there's just going to be a lot of those conversations. So like I said, we don't want to get too much into it, because until we know, we don't know. But we also don't want to, again, we're going to have very hard conversations in a very short amount of time, so we don't want you to be blindsided. We want to make sure you have as much heads up with that as possible. And then the last one I have on here is just our motor pool fund. So I don't really want to go into a lot of the history or anything like that, but basically, long and short of it is that our motor pool fund is also pretty much empty. Not quite, but it's not what it used to be for a long time. And we just now are kind of doing okay, now what do we do? Kind of similar, like we just said with the library of, we've got capital needs that are coming down the road. Right now, the way that it's set up, we can afford about $250,000 worth of capital replacements per year. That sounds like a really healthy number until you realize that some pieces of equipment are like $750,000 on their own. So that money goes by really, really fast. And really, the way that the funding works for motor pool, the only two ways that you could get more money into it is either to raise the rates that you charge for your motor pool services, which again goes back to that affects the parks, the cemetery, the library,
Just coming out of one pocket, going into another.
Right, you're charging, so you fix one problem, you create 6 more kind of thing, or it has to be a general fund contribution, which, like I said, we have a general fund. We're a balanced general fund right now. We don't have an extra $250,000 sitting around, or so we wouldn't be having these conversations about programming and parking lots. We have money for it. So, in the next couple of years, we're okay based on what Jim Goodall has provided us as far as a capital plan. It's really in about year 3 that things start to get dicey, and it's really year 4 from now where we have assets that are past their depreciable life that we don't have the money to pay for. So,
have we instituted any increases in the internal fund charges?
We have. That's how we've gotten up to $250,000 per year.
this has been a slow build for the last almost 5 years now.
Yes.
I was going to ask generally, where did the motor pool fund come from? Where did that money come from?
Internal services.
Yeah, it's all.
So we used to charge more than what it cost. And now
There was never a grant or anything that ever came to establish that. Okay.
Really, what we used to do.
You're eating our seed corn.
Yeah. In the simplest terms, we used to, the motor pool fund used to charge more than what it actually spent in a given year. And then that excess fund went into the equipment replacement fund.
Okay.
At some point, a decision was made that we shouldn't do that. That was a few years ago. I was not part of that decision. It basically was decided that we're only going to charge exactly what we spent that year, which when you only have $150,000 in capital needs, that sounds great. When you have $750,000 needs, then all of a sudden you're going again to every single one of your departments and saying, oh, by the way, this year your internal service fees just went up 25%. You have to figure out a way to fit it in your budget. So,
well, realistically, that's the smartest way to do it, is by charging appropriate fees. That way, expensive projects appear in the various budgets as expensive projects. You know, you take that $750,000 machine that maybe only services one piece of the budget. It's not fair that the rest of the departments or the rest of the areas are trying to cover that.
Yeah, basically.
It kind of skews your decision making if you don't see that.
Yeah, a good example would be like on the fire board side of things. You know, the fire board puts aside X amount of dollars every single year into a capital replacement fund. When we need to buy a $900,000 fire truck, there was a $900,000 already set aside in that capital fund. We didn't have to go to any of the city or the townships and say, we need extra money this year because now we have a big capital purchase. On this side of things, we're doing the opposite. We're basically, every year, we're not putting extra money aside, so that now when we need a big project, we have to go and say, okay, now we've given you a break for 5 years, now we need the money, but those departments don't have, like I said, we're not talking about departments that have excess money that are just like, oh yeah, sure, I can afford an extra.
And this covers everything except police and fire vehicles? Police comes out of their own budget, right? And fire
Police
comes out
and
of fire
fire,
board.
police and fire are separate, and then there are a couple of other abnormalities that somehow, some way got excluded back in the day that don't pay into it.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's police.
But those are small dollars.
Those are,
Yeah, right, but these are all the maintenance trucks, all the major stuff.
yeah, everything, basically everything that's
Back
used
trucks,
in, yeah.
Aerial,
Yeah,
the big
across.
ticket items are those two. Yeah, street sweepers.
Sweepers,
Those are
yeah.
your big numbers.
Yeah.
Zamboni.
Yeah, we raised rate a couple years ago to be able to afford the new Leaf truck that we, so that's when we got up to that $250,000 number. We weren't even at that before we did that, so.
So it's, if you were putting in, it's like we've been talking about, if we start, like at the parking lots, we started in the 80s, putting a little bit in, we've
Yeah.
been okay. But again, here we are, we're
we
5
are.
years in, trying to build this back up. It's gonna catch up to us before we get caught up again.
And you know, we talk about other funding, I mean, this is one, I'm not suggesting we do this, but this is, you know, historically, we've never bonded equipment in the motor pool fund. I don't think it's necessarily the best route to go. It is an option. Just throwing out
That's
options.
It's gonna make it worse.
It kicks the can down the road, yeah. It's a short-term solution. It
And that's why
doesn't solve the
we kicked the
long-term.
can years ago, in the
Right.
80s, like
Yeah.
you just said.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely,
We're gonna make it worse for 2040s and 50s.
And then we're burdening the future
Yeah.
citizens, that sort of thing, so trying to pay for it as we go.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes I get comments of, well, how come we weren't doing this before? It's like, well, I can't do anything about that then, but I could try to get us.
The needs are always greater than the revenue.
right, for sure. So, all right, and then the only other thing is just if there's anything in the budget that came up that you expected to see or wanted us to add, or things that we took out that you wanted us to look at adding back in, let us know, because like I said, right now, things will change. There are preliminary numbers in there, but for the most part, every fund that we have right now has a balanced budget, and we don't anticipate, unless there are things from you guys that you'd like to see us try to add in, or as we get more updated revenue numbers, we're not hitting our revenue projections. The budget is set right now, so if there's things that you want to see or things that like I said, we didn't include that you want us to include, just keep in mind that it's balanced, so anything that we add,
We gotta find money for
there
it.
would have to be a subtraction for new revenue. But that's our budget presentation for the year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Curtis.
No problem.
Good work. Isn't it your job to have all the money for these things?
I try.
Okay, I believe we have a motion on the table to accept the report. Does anybody have comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the report, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried, the report is accepted. Now we'll consider a resolution to set a public hearing for May 12, 2026 at 6 p.m. for the review, or soon thereafter as the agenda allows, to review the proposed fiscal year 2027 Elma City budget and related property tax millages. Also to set a special millage rate for Tuesday, May 5, special meetings for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026, and Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 at 6 p.m. for additional review of the proposed budget if needed.
So moved.
Support. Got motion support. Are there comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. Thank you. Appropriations. Do we have an interest in paying the bills?
Move to pay the appropriations.
We could have saved some money, but. Okay, got a motion and support. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. Commissioner comments. Sonia, would you like to lead off tonight?
I have no comments.
Michelle?
Thank you to the staff for getting us a balanced budget and all the work that goes into that. Downtown Alma, some shops are having a thing, so go out shopping Saturday downtown Alma. Congratulations to Wes and the Alma Scots cheer team. They went to nationals over the weekend. Cheer and dance. Make sure for dance. Nice. And they did very well, again.
national champions, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is that-
Again,
Yeah.
Like 14 out of 15 years or something?
a lot.
There's no stopping them, I think. All right, Drew.
Just thanks to Eric Curtis, the city staff on all the budget work. Appreciate it.
Roxanne?
Yes, ditto. Thanks, Curtis.
Roger?
Thank you, guys. I had something interesting here. I happened to be out in the front yard when they came by with the chipper this afternoon to pick up for yard waste, and I just asked them how they were doing. It was kind of busy at this time of year. And they told me that just today, on just the Tuesday area, they made 225 bag stops, picking up bags with usually 3 or 4 bags at each one of those stops. They had to go back and empty the truck 3 times before they could fill it. And that was just today, so. And that's why they sit around on their hands and don't do anything, just drive trucks around all day.
Yeah, unfortunately, the snow came earlier than we
Yeah.
got everything collected in the fall. So
Yeah, it did, yeah.
they're paying the price for it now.
They were
yes.
busy, so.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of
someone
leaves.
was asking me about the bags and the spraying and the using our new machine in the fall, and that has to do with staff, right? Partly, I mean, whether that we use the bags for pickup and the
It's
spraying because we don't really have.
it's about staffing. It's about how to manage those waste materials.
Yeah, okay.
Spring is normally not as many leaves,
Yes,
I don't think, as
exactly.
we have
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
There's a lot of leaves got covered under the snow this year that,
Well, my trees don't drop until after the last pickup, and so I don't.
That's the rule.
you need to talk to them.
Yeah, I've tried, so I've given up fall.
And this time of year, we
And I just did-
get a lot of branches.
Yes, and that's what I
Roger
said to you, I thought branches, things that
Those
don't
don't suck up well.
Yeah,
Yeah, right,
so this time of
exactly.
year, it's safer
Yep.
for them to do it this way.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, it's just the kids.
and that's one thing that kind of, we do once a week pickup, which is kind of rare if you look around communities for yard waste pickup. This time of year, it does help to do it once a week because you get caught up, but once you get in the summertime, it's much
Yeah,
easier. The
slows
guys
down
can just
a
go
little
down in their mornings and then they go to their other work. But it's, it's half a dozen one and a dozen the other. For what we charge for yard waste pickup and our solid waste and recyclables and large item pickup, we are cheaper than some communities just for trash pickup.
Sure.
So, and that's once a week yard waste pickup. So, it's a really good service that we provide to our community.
And if it gets sparse, I don't know if you've considered doing a call-in like they do for, Granger does for large items. If you had branches and things, do a call-in system so that you have to schedule it in
Sarah'd
advance.
love that one, yes, Sarah.
Well, it wouldn't be her.
I
don't think she'd be the scheduler, but
I would hope not, but
Like I said, we get caught up, when it gets closer to like June 1st, we're in much better shape.
yeah, when it's just grass clippings and stuff.
Also try to make time to see Dearly Beloved at the Strand. It opens next week. We're in our final rehearsals this week and next week, and it is funny. And we have a lot of new people in it, which is really exciting. People have just come out of the woodwork and said, I want to try acting or something, and they're really good. It's a funny, funny play, and you will enjoy it.
yeah, thank you. Sarah?
I just would like to offer a gentle reminder that if you're filing for city commission, if you're filing nominating petitions, the deadline is coming up on Tuesday, April 21st at 4 p.m.
Clock is ticking.
Just wanted to offer the reminder.
Thank you. Eric?
I'm good.
Hey, I don't have anything to add either. Thank you, Curtis, and everybody on staff for everything you do. Appreciate a balanced budget and good audit reports and all that kind of stuff, so wonderful. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the commission this evening? I don't view any, so
I think so.
Move to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn.
Support.
And support. Best chance for comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Be safe.